Welcome. Today I'm going to take you through a demonstration of IBM's Cloud Pak for Security. This unified platform is designed to help you detect and respond to threats with a simple, unified experience without ripping and replacing your existing tools. Let's see now how IBM Cloud Pak for Security can put the information you need at your fingertips to mitigate a threat. In our use case today, an end user, Bill, clicked on a purchase order attachment in an email and downloaded a brand new threat, the Belandi malware, onto his machine. Once that malware is on his machine, an external malicious actor, IP address 46 here, has stolen Bill's credentials and is now trying to access credit card data and other sensitive information in an Oracle database and other systems in the company. You are now the SOC analyst, and your job is to figure out what Bill did and how to mitigate this, and you're into what I call the wheel of pain. The SOC analyst has many tools at his fingertips in our example today. They're actually accessing CloudWatch logs. They have data protection from Guardium. They have Splunk. They have Carbon Black and IBM QRadar. And that SOC analyst has to jump between these tools to figure out what Bill did and how to mitigate the situation. But they also now have Cloud Pak Security that allows them to easily detect, investigate, and respond to a solution using a simple and unified experience while connecting to their existing data and security tools. I'll show you now how easy it is using Cloud Pak Security to find this threat that Bill did and start the mitigation process. What we're looking at right now is a unified dashboard for our Cloud Pak for Security. Across the top, we have the integrated applications, our federated search engine Data Explorer, our security automation and response tool, Case Management. We have user behavior analytics. We have our threat intelligence insights and our risk manager. The page consists of different dashboards that provide information that a SOC analyst help them do their job. This is coming from our threat intelligence insights of all of the latest threats that are happening in the world. We have dashboards out here for case management. We have dashboards out here bringing QRadar data in. So anything that was created with a Pulse dashboard in QRadar, I can now make that available inside Cloud Pak for Security. For example, this one shows number of offenses, critical and high, open offenses, and things that are there. But more importantly, you can create your own dashboard, and that's what I've actually done right here. I've combined the best of all worlds. I brought all the information that SOC analyst needs. I can look at my threats from QRadar. I can see all my open cases from my SOAR tool, how long the cases have been open. I can bring in my risk of databases, see how my patient record database, if it's secure or not, or my customer data. I can look at high-risk users coming from user behavior analytics. Again, I can look at my EPS flows and log sources from QRadar, and I can bring all this information in one spot now for that SOC analyst to do their job. Let's now begin to actually mitigate the threat from Bill. We're going to start with user behavior analytics. So Bill's been doing some bad things and causing some problems in our company. Inside user behavior analytics here of Cloud Pak for Security, on the left side, you start seeing the users, how they're trending up, down, or neutral. As user behavior analytics finds information, cases are actually created inside the case management tool so that my team can start actually working on these bad problems that Bill and other users have done. Over here on the left side, I can see that my risk has been going up, and I start looking at my risk breakdown. Is it based by geography, based by a certain asset they're accessing? I can look at what users are being investigated from my team so I know what's going on. I can build watch lists of high-impact users. For example, maybe the sales department, or if I'm doing a mergers and acquisition, I can start building some watch lists to make sure I'm keeping track of high-risky individuals to make sure they're not impacting our business. Let's now drill into our user Bill that made all the mistakes. You can see that he is in trouble. He's actually trending up really high. So I now, the SOC analyst, can quickly drill into user behavior analytics fed in by QRadar without leaving Cloud Pak for Security. I can see that he was humming along pretty good, and all of a sudden now there's a spike of activity. And what user behavior analytics did was start looking at some of the QRadar data, the events, the flows, and the rules that are being fired, and I can actually look at what caused Bill to be deemed high risk. Again, the power of all of this, though, was a case was created so my team now can start actually mitigating Bill's problems. If I drill into that case, it takes us right in now into the integrated SOAR tool, Case Manager. And I can see that this is actually a malware case, and my team can start working it. But if I were to quickly drop back for a second, I want to look at it. All of the cases are being created from, example, QRadar or maybe Splunk or other systems, so my team can start working on them. Something that we've just added is a preview right here of using a more tile-based metaphor now, so I can track what status the cases are in: initial, engage, detect, and respond. So again, it makes it very easy now for you to start managing the cases by where they are in the process and workflow of being mitigated. Let's now drill back into our case. So if I drill into the task part of the case, I see a playbook has been assigned. A playbook is a set of manual tasks and automated workflows that help that team to start mitigating the threat. I can see that we've blocked at the firewall level the malicious IP address we talked about earlier. We actually then also removed Bill from our Amazon cloud application so that he can't cause any more damage. We opened a ServiceNow ticket to reload Bill's machine because it's been affected by malware, and we've added the malware team so that they can start working the case, and these are the tasks that they do. 12% of my mitigation has been automatically done, and I did not even know Bill did anything wrong, and yet the system now is helping me become more productive by doing that stuff for me. Another cool thing that's been done is in the Artifacts tab. QRadar now has loaded artifacts into the case so my team has what they need to start working it. And if you notice now, we've loaded the IP sources. We've actually loaded Bill as our user account. We've loaded IP hashes. Something that might jump out at you are these are actually in red. Well, our threat intelligent integration now is actually saying these are known threats, and you can learn about what's happening and how to work with these threats. So if I drill into, for example, the hash, I can read about this hash, and I can look at our Threat Intelligent Insights data sources. X-Force Exchange is actually the first one we looked at, but we can also now pull in third-party threat feeds. Here's one from Alien Vault. Here's one from VirusTotal. So all of a sudden now I'm having all the information that I need inside my case provided to me. Besides the artifacts that were loaded for my team to look at, we actually have a QRadar tab here. And this QRadar tab has very good information in here. We can look at the alert information flowing from QRadar, and this is from our Guardian data source that let QRadar know that an alert was happening against this database to this external IP address. So I can now look at the events that are actually causing this case to be flagged. I can look at all the rules that were triggered, and I can do all of this in one spot, and this was provided by the integration with our SOAR product in the back-end systems. Again, QRadar provided the source and destination IPs, and if I want, I can actually, by a push of a button, add this information as an artifact into my case for my team to start doing this. You might start thinking to yourself, well, how did all of this stuff get in here? And that's the power of our SOAR tool and its integrations. You can look at all of these workflows that kicked off to say, hey, bring in the offense ID from QRadar. Look at, the IP source and destination address and add them to the case. And remember, we deactivated that user from Amazon, Bill, so he can't cause any more damage. Well, that's another integration we have here. And we also did one for ServiceNow to reload his machine. The way we do that is we have a bunch of what we call apps. And these apps are loaded and do the integrations and pull that relevant data into the case so the SOC analysts can do their job. And we have a whole catalog full of different ones that are here. For example, of all the Ansible integrations that are out there, we can integrate and use those. We can tie into Symantec. We can actually tie into ServiceNow, CloudStrike. And here's the Amazon one that we brought in. And again, I can do things like remove users, delete users, or deactivate users automatically. Maybe you have email addresses that have caused malware. I might want to remove that email from all of my Office 365 users. That's another integration we can do. Okay, so now that we have all this great information, we've done some automations by removing users and blocking users at the firewall. I need to start doing my job, and I want to figure out what has been going on with this database. So by a push of a button now, I can drop into our integrated federated search engine, Data Explorer, and it will automatically create the case, the query for me, and then go out against all of my log sources, Amazon, CloudWatch, Carbon Black, Guardian, QRadar, Splunk, or whatever sources are there, and then come back with the results set for anybody that has that IP address, and I can even specify a certain date range that I'm looking at of when this actually happened. I come back and I see that 4,500 results has happened. Well, that's a lot of results. Well, we have an analytics engine that can make your life a little easier. So, for example, I started doing analytics on user ID, and I see that Bill is causing a lot of problems, and he's really peaked here. I can also pivot on other things. For example, I want to drill into the details of what's been happening with this database, and I start looking over here, and I can start looking at, some create tables and selecting and storing and all that stuff here, and I see that an anomaly, an outlier that was flagged by analytics was that someone did a select star from credit cards. My heart is racing. This could mean that we have a breach, and this anomaly normally doesn't happen, and I realize we might have a problem. Well, I need to actually start whittling down the 4,500 result set here, so I'm going to actually search on that credit card star search here just by typing the word credit, and it automatically will look at all the log sources and say, let me actually filter this down to just 16 hits. I can do better yet because I really know that this is Bill, so I type in Bill. I'm now taking 4,500 hits and said this is really the two I'm interested in because we are actually doing what? We're looking at the user ID Bill and this really bizarre select from credit card database query that's happening. And Guardium actually had two informations in its log that we connected to. And again, we didn't move this data in the Cloud Pak Security, but we connected to it and ran the query at the back-end systems. That makes it a lot more productive for your team not having to ingest and move all these logs around. If I actually drill into this information, again, I don't have to drop into the back-end data source, in this case Guardium, to look at it. I can view that log payload right here, and I can see that's against Oracle database. I can see that Bill did it. Here's that malicious IP address, and oh my gosh, they did a select from credit card against this IP address. But guess what? Guardium did its job, and it flagged this as a policy violation, so no query was run. And I realized we did not actually have a breach because IBM Guardium Protection did its job. I want to share this information back with my team, and by a push of a button, because this is a unified system, I can quickly just say that the credit card breach did not happen. I can pick the case I'd like to add this information to, and by a push of a button now, I've shared this information back to the team so they're just as smart as I am. I can actually click this link to link right to it, but instead I'm going to do one more thing. A lot of data hunting uses AQL with QRadar, so we've now built into the product the ability to do AQL queries also. So again, a lot of that information that QRadar has you want to bring forward and share with the case. So here's an example of running an AQL query against QRadar directly without having to drop into the tool again. I can now look at that same payload like I did here, and if I want to share this relevant information back to my team just by a couple buttons, I can click Add Artifact, and just like that now, this information has also been added back to the case. If I drill back into the case we're working on, I see the AQL query, and I see the actual credit card information we learned from QRadar. And if I drill into it, I can see that, the Guardium information here, and I can actually look at the query and information right here by looking at the payload data. Again, I don't have to drop into Guardium. This information is provided to me just that fast. And we did not have a breach, so life's pretty good for me. But let's pretend that we actually had a breach. Well, that's where the Case Manager's privacy module that's integrated really pays off. I can now come over to the Breach tab and say, well, if we did have a breach, I can say, yes, it was a breach. And I can say that, yes, we're at harm and risk. The data was not encrypted, let's say, and it has not been resolved yet, and the data has been electric. What data did we lose? Again, we have this all built into the case management tool with our privacy module. I can say we lost our first name, last name, and customer information. And again, we mentioned this was going against the credit card database, so we lost credit card information. And then I can pick, well, what states or countries were involved? Well, California actually has different rules for privacy breach than New Jersey and New York. So by checking those boxes now, our case management privacy module with our breach now says, well, these are some extra things you need to do when you've lost your customer data. If you now go back to our task here and we drill down, we have these extra tasks that have been added, and oh my gosh, one of them is flagged in red, because in New Jersey you have to act pretty fast to do your job, and we provide who you need to contact, phone numbers, everything you need to do this. Your team does not have to hunt for this information for every one of the states. It's been pushed and brought to them. And again, all the source information of what they need now to notify New Jersey, notify the people that have been affected, and they have all that information there for them right inside the task. So I can now start working the breach. Well, I also been assigned another task here because I need to look at the risk of my databases. This might not have been a breach for our Oracle database for customer data, but maybe other databases might be at risk. I'd like to use the IBM Integrated Risk Manager with Cloud Pak for security and see what are my database risks. And if you look at the bubbles over here, the farther to the right and the higher they up and the bigger you are, the more risk you are for that kind of data. And data exfiltration, data leaving the company is pretty high risk now in my company. So I click the Analyst button. It now comes back and starts looking at, we have had some large outbound transfers of data maybe. Or I might have some other remote distribution of data. I can look at my risk trend, and it was going down for a while, but now all of a sudden these last couple of days, we're at a high risk of data leaving the company. Well, if I look at the Resistance tab, this now shows the vulnerabilities of our data in our company, and I can see that